everyone. I hope you are able to see me. My name is Samuel here. I'm a Director of Digital Channels and Strategic Alliances. Thank you SCCCI, the Chinese Chamber of Commerce, for this invite for GETS to actually share with you on what it takes to be a digital trader. Before we actually continue with for me to introduce the first speaker, I'd like to encourage everybody to ask questions along the way. So ask questions in the Q&A panel. If you have any issues, just need to move your mouse down to the bottom and then you will see the Q&A window pop up under the Zoom panel. So keep the questions coming. We'll address them at the end of the presentation today. If we are unable to address the questions, we can always share the answers by email with everybody. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. My first speaker is Mr. Mike Yap. He's the Vice President of Products, Compliance Services and Mass Market Sales. He'll be giving you a very quick overview of what GETS Asia Private Limited is all about. So thank you, Mike. I can see you. Please proceed. Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can see my screen well, and I hope you had a good lunch. And today, I think I'm very pleased that I have many of my colleagues who are experts in their own area. We will be sharing with you how you can actually transform your your supply chain business onto a digital platform. For a start, what I'll do is to do a quick introduction of who is GETS, what do we do, and thereafter, my colleagues will have put together an interesting presentation where they will walk you through how a trade can be done through a digital platform like CALISTA. GETS is a 100% subsidiary of Crimson Logic, who in turn is owned 70% by PSA and 30% by Enterprise Singapore. I think with the whole government ownership, many times not only we focus on the commercial aspect of the business, but we also do have some national interests at heart, where we have constantly worked closely with many of the Singapore community to help to make Singapore a hub for the rest of the world. And for GETS, our mission is really to power the global trade connectivity. And in the next few slides, I will share with you how we plan to do that. So I think we understand that in any supply chain, there are many different parties involved, and it can be very complicated. Although the trade can happen between two parties, buyer and seller, but the actual physical movement of that whole cargo can actually go through multiple routes. It can be transshipped in Singapore before it carry on its next journey, and maybe before it reach a final destination, he had to reach a neighboring port before it's trucked over to the warehouse. So I think the whole idea is really how we can enable the trade and supply chain community to able to orchestrate all these different activities in a very seamless, smartly, and secure manner. To do that, GETS believe that we need a platform like CALISTA, which is a supply chain orchestration platform. We believe that to be a true global platform where it supports everybody, it had to be an open, neutral, and trusted arrangement that we can have with all the different players involved in the supply chain. Beyond just the digital platform itself is insufficient. I mean, no computer or digital platform can move a physical container over ocean or over the air. We will still need to work very closely with physical asset. We had to incorporate the physical aspect of supply chain in order to make this whole thing work. So we work very closely with all the different players, and the digital platform itself is just the stitching capability. It's like the glue, while the rest of the players are the ones that actually move the physical goods itself. So to articulate the main benefit, I think like what we mentioned, our focus is really to create a seamless experience, collaboration for all the different players, to make people feel secure, whether is it from the trader, the buyer, seller, their logistics service provider, or even regulatory authority who are involved in the import-export clearance of the goods itself. I think lastly, with technology, it should not be purely just a digitization, just converting a physical process into a digital process, where you still need the same number of clicks or the same number of involvement. I think with technology, you have the ability to make it a lot smarter. Where in the past, maybe you need 10 steps. I think with digital technology, what we are trying to do is to say, can we actually cut down the number of steps? Or can the machine itself actually help you to more interestingly recognize information out from a physical document and then make sense of the information and help you in your processing of, let's say, your trade compliance. So within CALISTA itself, I think there are three core pillars that we focus on: the physical logistic, the compliance, which is the regulatory flow, and lastly is the financial aspect of any supply chain itself. It's only with these three different flow integrated that you are able to achieve that whole seamless, secure benefit. So on this platform, you can book multiple. You can book freight on multiple modal. You are able to submit documents at one source, and it is able to be populated into multiple nodes, whether is it for import, export. You have aggregated all the different services related to financial services, so you have a choice, and it makes it a lot easier when you want to be able to compare and find the best deal. And at the same time, we also provide assisted services in the event that our customer have still not really embarked and they're new on digital journey. We can actually provide that bridge for them, where we actually have assisted services who can guide them through in embarking on the digital journey. And last and not least is, I think with digital platform, it becomes a natural expectation that you're able to track and trace your goods from point A to point B. And I think I have covered all the flow. I think beyond just all the functionality, I think it's important that for supply chain to work, we need to make use of other technology capabilities, for example, AI or machine learning, where we want to make sense of the information that flow through. At the same time, with blockchain technology, we want to be able to secure all the transactions on the physical platform so that all the parties who are involved in this whole supply chain can trust that the deal or the transaction that's conducted on it is genuine. I think lastly, we also have started a platform called Hive together with Singapore Logistics Association with support from Enterprise Singapore, where we create a social platform for all the different logistics service providers, starting with Singapore and ASEAN country. But now you have already expanded his membership to Latin America, even to Canada and India, where we allow them to come in, collaborate, discover each other's services. And very much the profile of our user in Hive are mostly SME. What we want them to do is through this partnership and social network, they can actually establish and augment, their capability by leveraging on the partners they have identified on the platform. So let me go into more detail on each of those three areas that I have covered. For example, in compliance, logistics, and finance. So when it comes to compliance, what we are trying to do in CALISTA is to make the whole regulatory filing a very simple and simplified process, where we try to eliminate all the complication in terms of the need for people to understand all the complicated requirement of each of the local country itself. And we try to standardize in terms of how information should be shared, so that, and we create using technology to create that whole integration so that we can achieve a high level of automation. Currently on our compliance, not only we have that platform capability, we also have plugged ourselves into 61 different country nodes. So we allow people who join the CALISTA platform are able to share and reuse most of the data that they have input, and so that there is no need for re-entry of the data, which will then eventually result in terms of consistency and less complication or compound from the regulatory authority. And very much we also make use of technology like OCR AI, which I'll show you here. This is a typical automation process that we have put in place to help our client who need regulatory filing. We have to cater for clients who actually have physical document where we are making our technology at OCR AI to help them to digitize. Thereafter, I think we always need to understand, for example, you want to export to Thailand, and we need to know the import procedure of Thailand and what is the type of data that require. So the transformation phase is where we transform the data we collected into the format that is required for Thailand, for example. And we actually incorporate all the business rules for the user as well. And lastly, through the node that we have established electronically, we are able to submit them. So coming on to the logistics side of things, I think these are the key points we would like you to remember. It is a digital platform that supports freight booking. And what is more important is that it's one-stop shop where you can come in and access to all the over 80 different leading carriers and MVOCC who are currently providing the shipping services. At the same time, we have 70% of the Singapore hauliers currently using our platform. And we also provide a batch booking capability from the Europe node. We support 15 carriers in terms of dangerous goods booking. And we're able to do a global track and trace, leveraging not only our CALISTA established connection, but as well as our parentage, for example, like PSA and Crimson Logic. And lastly, we are able also to offer you advanced port solution like forward hubbing. Beyond just helping you with your operation flow in terms of your shipping needs, we have also recently rolled out CALISTA Freight Exchange. It's a marketplace that's very much dedicated for the logistics service provider around the world to come in and collaborate among themselves, to allow them to promote each other's services. I think the key is really allowing them to stitch up all their services so that they can offer to their customer a door-to-door service. And I think this is very attractive, especially for SME, logistics service provider. And at the same time, it also, once they are able to stitch up, it will also benefit the SME shipper as well, where they don't have to go to large MNC or large service provider. They can be dependent on their local service provider to do this end-to-end supply chain orchestration. On the same platform itself, I think we have features like personalized microsite, where we allow logistics service provider to create their own freight portal, where then they can invite their own customer to come in. They can serve them, on their rate inquiry digitally without having them to make a phone call or sending a WhatsApp, and they can interact with them, through their own microsite. On the platform itself, like I mentioned earlier, we allow the LSP to manage their own rates and services, how they want to package and bundle for all the different type of customers that they serve. As a platform provider, we also help them with very much their online marketing activity. We do not just provide them a tool. You need to able to use the tool and the information to help them to market to greater audience of customers around the world. And lastly, we also integrate with our financial service so that not only you can conduct the inquiry of rate, you can buy, sell of the rate, they can even integrate to make the payment on the rate on the marketplace itself. Next, we will cover finance. I think my colleague later will actually share more. Basically, what we want you to remember that our turnaround is really fast because very much we use machine to make decision. And not only that we turn around in terms of how we process or assess a financing requirement, we are able to move the money fast in terms of making payment or cross-border payment, especially with a click of a button. So I will not steal the thunder of my colleague. I think they will demo to you later. So I'll let them share more with you during their presentation. So these are just some of the partners who are currently on board our CALISTA Finance platform. and these are all reputable international company. And with this last slides, I think it ends my presentation. I will hand over you back to Samuel, and to my rest my colleague will show you how a trade can happen on the digital platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mike. It was a very good, insightful summary of what GETS is all about. Today is a Friday afternoon, right? Friday, we need to be a bit more relaxed. We have worked hard for the past week. Some of us are working from home, some of us are working from the office, but no matter where you are, we just want everybody to, have a bit of a relax, to actually, enjoy this webinar without too much stress. So we have actually set up a few quizzes and polls to break the monotony of our presentations so that we can engage everybody. You can engage you all to be involved. So can I trouble everybody, all the participants today, to go to your web browser, whether it's your desktop or your smartphone, and enter menti.com under the URL. Then you can enter this code 2995050. Alternatively, you can scan the QR code, which will bring you directly to the quiz, or you can enter the bit.ly here. So several methods for you to access the QR, to access the quiz. The first quick survey, the question we are asking is, how challenging is it going to be for traders, whether you're a trader, you're a manufacturer, you're an importer, exporter, you're a distributor, etc. How challenging is it for you when you engage in international trade? So share with us your thoughts about this. I can see the answers are coming in. Wow, it seems that a lot of us are finding it super challenging to engage in international trade. Not bad. We have 18 respondents, so I'm hoping more people can actually respond. All you need to do is to go to menti.com on your browser or on your phone. Open up your Safari, open up your Google Chrome, go to menti.com and enter this magical number 2995050. Well, it seems like a lot of our friends at Chinese Chamber, a lot of the members who are at this webinar, you're finding it quite challenging. The average seems to be on the high side, between 4 to 5. So not to worry, the rest of our presentation will help you to actually have a better understanding of what international trade is all about and how to actually use digital technology, to use innovative solutions that we can provide to actually help you to navigate all these challenges that you might encounter during your process of engaging in international trade. So very good. I think, thank you very much for your response. There'll be more of such Menti questions coming up. So keep your Menti screen on. I will progress to the next part of the presentation. So in order for us to continue, I'd like to introduce you to this concept called a user journey. In a lot of startups, in a lot of new innovation and technology, you always keep hearing this term user journey, user journey. User journey is very important. It helps us to map out our processes. It helps us to put ourselves in the shoes of many stakeholders who are part of that whole process that we are talking about. So today, the process that we want to explore is international trade. And who is engaging in the international trade? We are focusing from the trader and manufacturer point of view. People who need to import and export after they manufacture, or if they are distributors, there will be the trader community, which I believe most of our attendees of this webinar, you belong to this group of people. So to help us to visualize this international trade. So to help us to visualize this user trade journey, we kind of brainstormed and actually map out 4 stages of this user journey for a trader and manufacturer. So as you can see on the screen, why I have an image of a gentleman scratching his head is to symbolize that this entire process is actually quite complex. It actually resonates very well with the poll findings that you just did earlier on. It is not a simple process. There's a lot of complicated things that we need to take note. But rest assured, throughout this presentation, we'll always help you to address, we'll always go back to the challenges and how our solutions will be able to help you to mitigate these challenges. So just to summarize, everybody bear in mind, our program today is broken up into 4 parts, and there's no coincidence that these 4 parts of our presentation is in line with the 4 steps of digital international trader user journey. So the first step is to, if you want to kick off the process of engaging in international trade, you will need to find out what are the custom requirements. You need to find out what are the restrictions, what are the tariffs involved in the product that you're going to bring in or the product that you're going to export. So the second part is the physical logistics part, the part whereby you need to book your freight services, whereby you engage a carrier, be it a sea freight carrier or an air cargo carrier, or even a land carrier for cross-border trucking, etc. You engage services with the logistics service provider. Then the third part comes the complicated part, very manual, very tedious, declaring our customs. And then the final leg, we always tend to forget that we need to finance our operations, right? We need to finance our trade. We need to pay people, we need to receive payments, etc. So the 4th step is definitely talking about cash flow, talking about finance, talking about how you can move your funds overseas, how you can apply for financing to fund your invoices and cash flow. So bear in mind this 4-step user journey. We are going to map these 4 steps of the user journey for an international trader and share with you typically how do people actually kick off this process. Even today, even now in our so-called very connected, very digital world, a lot of our processes are still very manual, including international trade. So a lot of our traders, when they conduct step 1 to step 4, they're actually going through a very manual process or a less digital process, so to speak. Even if you go to a website to find out information, you go to a customs website to find out information for step 1, or you ask your friends, or you ask your fellow freight forwarders. This process, even though you're using online medium, it's still very manual. You still have to do it a lot of the discovery yourself. You have to go and find out information, etc. Even booking a cargo space, you call, you email, you go through google.com to search for somebody, and then you call. You go through Yellow Pages, or you ask your friends to refer a logistics service provider who might be able to help you fulfill that logistic aspect of your international trade. Then when you want to file customs declaration, sometimes you have to do it, if you want to do it by yourself, or you have to call your freight forwarder to help you to do it, they'll charge you money and then you're going to cost more. And then for the last portion, which is the finance part, right? You have to go through, you have to contact your banks, you have to contact financiers to, or you go to remittance companies and other financial institutions to fulfill your financial requirements. But what if we tell you that there's actually a digital way to do it? There are portals, there's digital portals that GETS has actually built, whether we built it ourselves or with our partners, to help you to become a trader digitally. You can do it yourself, or even your logistics service provider, your favorite freight forwarder, can also be on board on the platform to embrace this digital aspect of the user journey. So for example, step 1, our user portal will be able to give you 24/7 global advisory. It's like a robot, digital robot, to help you to solve all your digital questions that you might have before you even embark on the trade. So step 1 will be addressed later by my colleague, Jin Cheng. Then for number 2, when you want to book your freight services, there's also online portals that you can go in to digitally inquire, to digitally book, and have greater visibility about your cargo bookings. It's similar to how, as a consumer, we go to agoda.com to book our hotels, or you go to singaporeair.com to book your flights. Everything is end-to-end, everything is within the website, is within the portal. On the third step, which is declaring your customs, we have the software, we have the product to actually help you to automatically generate your documentation from a manual copy to a digital copy, so that you can submit your permits to your customs for your import and export. And lastly, we'll demonstrate to you how our online portal can help you to submit financing requests, payment requests online through our digital portal. So this is a paradigm shift, right, from going from manual to digital, and why we are doing it, and why we find that going digital is important, because it helps us to quickly seize opportunities. It helps us to weed out the manual processes. It gives us greater efficiency. And the more we go digital, actually in the long run, our productivity will increase and our costs will actually decrease, because we are relying more on more efficient ways of doing things. No need for time, no need to consume time, consume resources, additional headcount. So all this in the long run will actually benefit businesses if we go digital. I believe you have heard a lot of verbatim, a lot of advocates quotes on why is the reason to go digital. For international trade, the messaging is also the same, the reason why you want to go digital. So as I mentioned, we have the 4 solutions that my 4 colleagues will actually share more during the rest of the presentation. So before we go into the first step, which is finding the discovery about all the custom requirements, I'd like to invite everybody for a pop quiz. Everybody, please go to your menti.com again. You should be able to see the second question. This is a little trivia quiz to help everybody to be a bit engaged, to stay a little bit of awake. So can you help to answer the question? This is on which is the South American country that has signed an FTA with Singapore. Well, nobody's choosing Ecuador. Looks like it's a tough fight between Chile and Argentina. Looks like a soccer match. 53% out of the 15 respondents, or now we have 18 respondents, majority have actually selected Chile. So no cheating, no going to Google to search. Interesting. Most of us are actually have chosen Chile as the answer. So let me review the correct answer. The correct answer is yes, Chile is the country, is a South American country that has signed an FTA with Singapore. Why is this significant? Why Chile is going to have, I'm going to review the answer why Chile is chosen for this question. Okay, let's go to our next question. So go to, you should be able to see the second question now if you refresh your Mentimeter screen on your browser. I'm going to ask this question. Particular SG import item forecast to grow from 187 million to 1.4 billion in 2021 within a span of about 13, 14 years. Yes, grown extremely rapidly. No one is guessing cheese. Singaporeans are not cheese lovers. I see a lot of us like wine. Encourage everybody to participate in this quiz. It helps you to break the monotony of the presentation, make the presentation doesn't seem so serious and boring. Okay, looks like most of us are actually thinking that wine is the highest growth item from 2008 to 2021 as an import item into Singapore. So the answer actually is wine. Very good. So most of us got the right answer. So the answer is wine. Even though I'm guessing surgical mask might catch up very soon within the next few months because of our current situation, right? But yeah, wine is definitely the right answer for this poll. And why we want to talk about wine is I want to actually bring us into this case study. We'll use this case study of importing wine from Chile to Singapore to demonstrate how we can use our digital platform to go through the 4 steps of an international trader, of a digital international trader. So just to recap the 4 steps, first is finding out customs requirements. Second is booking of cargo space with your carriers or freight service providers. Third is declaring customs declarations. And the fourth is on applying for payments and financing. So in order for us to continue with our presentation, this case study will be the theme that is going to be talked about by all my 4 speakers for the rest of the 4 speakers. Each of them will take on a persona, a role of each of these 4 under each of the 4 steps. So there will be an entrepreneur who is a wine importer. He will employ a logistician, his favorite logistics service provider from Red and White Cargo. And then the entrepreneur will have an operations manager to help him with the custom declarations, and also the finance manager to help him with all financial matters. So without further ado, I will go to another poll again. This is, I promise, the last poll for before we introduce our next speaker. So go to Menti again, enter this code, and then we have a poll before I invite our first speaker for this 4-step process. So how does your company acquire or manage your trade and customs know-how? So this is a quick survey to find out how do traders, how do importers, exporters, manufacturers, or any company that involves in global businesses, how they actually find out about trade requests, requirements, and custom requirements and knowledge. So good. Most of us actually have intrinsic knowledge that we built up over the years. 30% of us have that. 33% has self-learning, self-discovery, research through public sources, through the internet, news, etc. Some of us spend time to go for courses, not a lot, but still there's quite a few people doing that. We also have our in-house specialists to manage this compliance portion, or we outsource it to a trade consultant, whether it's a freight forwarder or customs broker. Interesting. But most of us, well, we are all self-help. Very good. Most of us are very determined to go through this digital, or rather go through this international trade process on our own with our own know-how. Interesting. So this leads me to our first segment. I'm going to introduce to you Jin Cheng. Jin Cheng is our product manager. He's also doubling up as the entrepreneur with the wine importer. Jin Cheng, you can unmute yourself. So he's going to, share with us step one of the process about discovering all the customs requirements that it takes to import wine from Chile, and using his knowledge to share with you how we can do it digitally. So over to you, Jin Cheng.
Thanks, Samuel. So yes, you can call me Jin Cheng. So I'm the product manager in GET. So actually I'm leading on this product that I'm going to share. So for this presentation, I'm playing the role of entrepreneur in this wine company, Wine Global Private Limited. So this company is really about importing wine into Singapore, selling wine here in this market. So I've started seeing interest in wine from Chile in the Singapore market. In fact, I think in the earlier slide you can see that Chile wine is actually in fact projected to grow significantly in Singapore market. So there is definitely business opportunity in this area, especially for this country, wine from this country. So of course, I think importing wine or importing products from a new country is never simple. I think there's a lot of work needed, a lot of research work needed to understand what it takes to move goods over into Singapore. So I've don't know where to find it. Back then, how I do it is definitely going to Google, start to search around, trying to understand what are the trade requirements, what are the free trade agreements, what are the tariffs involved, what are the licenses, for example, that is needed to actually move from one country out to a new country. So, but recently I came across this product called CALISTA Intelligent Advisory. I've signed it up, and this is how I'm going to actually find out information about moving wine from Chile into Singapore. So here, I have logged into the to CALISTA, where I can actually access to the Intelligent Advisory in service. So here, let me start to put in country of origin as Chile. Here I can put in Singapore. Okay, and let me go next. Here I have the wine product that I'm interested to import. So bought this from a manufacturer in Chile. So in fact, I cannot even pronounce the name. So what I'm going to do here is really to search. First is to definitely find out what HS code it is. And because HS code is always the basis of how customs requirements is based on. I think that is always the first level. Here, what I can actually search is really the list of the HS code in for the local country. In this case, would be Singapore, of course. So let's say, of course, if I start to change the different countries, I can start to see the HS code specifically for another country. Here, let me go in. I can start to see information on the HS code which I've selected. I can see the duties and taxes. Okay, and great. I think there are no additional duties, export duties that I need to move wine from Chile down to Singapore. Here, of course, I think the free trade agreement in this case doesn't apply to wine for moving from Chile to Singapore. Okay, let's see. In terms of documentations, what do I need to look at? Here, quite standard bill of lading, commercial invoice, certain things quite standard. Maybe I would want to look at the export declaration, since I might be exploring, you know, X works in code terms. Okay. Definitely, I think we'll need a translator to know, but at least I think this gives me a good basis of where I can find out information for declaration. Now let's look at the import side. I think this is probably pretty standard for me, since I'm a wine importer in Singapore for a few years. So I'm pretty familiar with the inward declaration form, etc. Let's go down to the formalities, which I can actually look through, you know, what are the controls required for example, things like licenses, special notes that I need to take note when moving a type of product. Here I can see that it's governed by Singapore Food Agency. Scope, there are notes about it. And reference, which I can actually find out more information about this, this control that is in place. So now, great, I have found the information that I needed. Let me share further in terms of what else I can actually do on this CALISTA compliance advisory. You know, apart from Chile and Singapore, I can actually also find out information for more than 180 countries. You know, pretty much almost all the countries that is on the harmonized system with HS codes, I can actually find out information. That includes not just the HS codes, it's also on the free trade agreements, what are the free trade agreements that it can be applied for a particular HS code for a particular country. What are the documentations, both import and export, and of course the controls that I mentioned earlier. You know, apart from just using on the UI, I have also plans to integrate this system over to my ERP system. So eventually, apart from, you know, just being able to search, I can start to you know, do out my purchase order. Immediately, I can get the recommended HS code via API, calling to this CALISTA compliance advisory, and eventually streamline the whole process. So let me go on to the last slide, which is to really summarize. So things that I can do with this CALISTA advisory. One is, of course, HS code recommendation from a layman product description. I can get, let me put this down so that you can see that. Okay, so apart from you know, you can use the layman product description, get a HS code of the destination country. From the HS code, we can also derive the compliance information. For example, free trade agreements, trade documents, what are the duties and taxes, and of course the controls. And soon to come, we have the landed cost calculator, which is really also leveraging on our big data that we can get from the trade compliance information. So by passing in the cargo values, the origin and destination, and a few more information about your shipment, for example, like the freight cost and insurance cost, we can actually determine and tell what is the tax rate, what is the duties that is payable in exact amount, as well as the total landed cost. Okay, great. I have found out all the information necessary to move goods from, you know, wine from Chile to Singapore. Now I'm going to finalize my deal with my Chile manufacturer. And of course, then now I need to arrange for freight with my regular freight forwarder, red and wine, Red and White Cargo Private Limited.
Thank you, Jin Cheng. That was a very insightful sharing about CALISTA Intelligent Advisory. I think this one-stop digital advisor helps us to become very, a very single one-stop place to find out all about the trade and custom requirements that we need to, to find out without going through a lot of different sources. There's a one-stop source that we can actually access and do our searches, to do our, find out all the information that we need before we actually conduct the import or the export. So thank you very much, Jin Cheng. And now the next step is actually to book our, after we find out all the requirements, we need to finalize we have already finalized the shipment that we want from our winery in Chile to import into Singapore. So now we need to work with a logistics service provider to actually book the freight. So Jin Cheng's favorite logistics service provider is Red and White Cargo Private Limited. But before we actually go to the next stage, next step, let us have another pop quiz, another survey. Once again, let me share. So go to the Menti page again. You will see that the survey has refreshed to question number 4. Question number 4, we are going to ask you, how you typically book your freight. If you need to do import and export, if you need to move your goods from one country to another, how do you actually book your freight? There are 3 answers there. Please select your most frequent method, your most frequent option. Cool. It seems that most of us make use of a logistics service provider to help us to do our, not only for the cargo booking, but also for the peripheral services. Some of you, a small amount, percentage of people are responding that they book directly with the cargo carrier, whether it's the airline or the land or the sea cargo provider. A very tiny portion actually book through logistics service providers for cargo space only. Good, interesting. So with this piece of information, I think it's appropriate for me to actually introduce our next speaker. His name is Mr. Yong Yao. Yong Yao is a senior client solutions specialist from GETS, but he's also going to double up in a different role today. He's also going to double up as a logistician of Red and White Cargo. So let me invite Yong Yao to share his screen and also his video. Thank you very much, Yong Yao.
Thanks, Samuel. So hi, everyone. I'm Yong Yao, the Client Solutions team. So now I'm going to take on the role as a logistician from Red and White Cargo. So Jin Cheng is a long-time customer of mine and recently have mentioned to me that he's interested to import wine from Chile to Singapore. And as a freight forwarder, I have recently started on my digitalization journey. So I got to know about CALISTA Freight Exchange and I've onboarded onto the platform. The CALISTA Freight Exchange allows me to publish my rates and purchase a freight space with others logistics service provider. But it also allows me to create a microsite which allow customer like Jin Cheng to go into my microsite and start making a booking through the microsite. So previously for Jin Cheng to make a booking with me often would be either through call or by email. But now with the freight exchange, the freight for the microsite that I've provided him, Jin Cheng will be able to view rates on my microsite. And this is what he will see. He will see that for a shipment from Santiago, Chile to Singapore, this will be the rates. He can negotiate and bargain with me through the website. And of course, he knows that my rates are the ones that he has often used and trust. So he will continue to make a booking through this microsite. And upon making a booking, he will upload documents like his packing list and invoice and submit this. And all this will be sent to the CALISTA Freight Exchange portal, which I, as a logistics service provider, would have administration rights to it. So upon receiving the order from Jin Cheng, I will be able to view it in the administrative portal, and I will be able to assist to carry on to continue the booking. by confirming this order from Junchen first, and then I'll place a booking with my carrier and any haulage bookings that is required. Confirm the order, and then Junchen will be able to receive my invoice and make the necessary payment. So now I'll go back to introduce to you what is this CALISTA Logistics suite of product is about. So CALISTA Logistics module allows shipper, freight forwarders, and carriers to interact with one another. So some of the things that the logistics provider or the shippers can do is to search for things like ocean schedule. They can also make a freight booking for ocean FCL containerized shipment, general or DG cargo, create their shipping instruction and bill of lading, be able to track and trace their shipment, like containers status. Previously, my colleague Mike has mentioned, we also provide the availability of booking haulage within Singapore, as well as forward hubbing services. And of course, me previously as the role that I played as the logistics service provider, we have the CALISTA Freight Exchange, which allow logistics service provider to publish their rates into a marketplace, purchase freight space from each other, and then providing a microsite for their customers to make booking with them directly. So the CALISTA Logistics services is available through UI, which is the website, or the customers can choose to integrate with us. We are able to do so by EDI or XML. And these are some of the EDI solutions used by our customers and partners. So CALISTA Logistics partners with Intra and CargoSmart. And as Mike has earlier mentioned, we are connected to 80 over carriers. And these are some of the carriers that we have on board our platform that is available for shippers to book. The CALISTA Freight Exchange that the logistics service provider can see provides such a simple workflow, a personalized microsite for the customer to make booking directly with the logistics service provider. And as a logistics service provider, I can orchestrate between myself and another logistics service provider, and then purchase and negotiate for freight purchases between two logistics service providers. This is the freight forwarders microsite that we have shown you earlier on. So how does this freight exchange changes things in the digital world? So previously, like I mentioned, Junchen would often have to request for quotes for me via phone or via email, manually source for partners, the rates as a logistics service provider. I need to maintain the Excel file. I need to confirm the booking with my carriers via phone or email. There's a lack of visibility in terms of the cash flow, and I have to pay through the traditional payment mode. So in the digital world, everything can be done now through this CALISTA Logistics platform. There's a website for the logistics service provider to input their rates, as well as the customers to come in to make the freight booking on their own. So there will be no more costly IT systems or software investment. The Freight Exchange is a pay-as-you-go monthly subscription model. No longer is my customer or myself restricted to Office desktop, and I can access it via browser anytime and anywhere. So with this, I will pass on to Samuel, who will continue on with the user journey.
Thank you, Yong-Ya, for your presentation on the logistics aspect of the user journey. We have actually completed 2 out of the 4 steps of this user journey. So everybody, time for another survey. I promise you this is going to be an interesting one. So go back to your mentee.com, go to this code, enter this code again, back to your screen, or refresh your screen if you already have your mentee.com on the browser. You should be able to see question 5, 5A, 5 alpha. This question requires you to slide the answers so that you can actually, answer and share with us, how often do you encounter these issues when you actually file your customs declaration, whether it's for import or export for your customs declarations. these are some of the issues that we know people face. But how often, how serious, how much of this bothers you as a trader, as an international trader? So do answer this question. And let's take a look at the results. Majority of us actually find that the process is tedious and manual. Understandably so, because there's a lot of complications, a lot of requirements from the various customs. If it's some country that you always trade with, maybe you're more familiar. But if it's a brand new country, for example, like in Juncheng, the wine importers example, he's actually going to trade with a wine exporter in Chile. That'll be his first time. So he might need to navigate a lot of complicated data, a lot of complicated paperwork to get this customs declaration done, completed. So sometimes it may cost a little bit more because you need to hire more resources to do it, or you get people, a lot of manual work, a lot of data entry to file all this through the Singapore customs. If you need to file the import declarations, etc. So costs may be involved, and as things are more manual, the error rates could increase, resulting in maybe even your cargo gets held up at the ports, right, before they are being released for your pickup. So if we go digital, there could be more opportunities for you to increase the efficiencies so that the cost will go down. The process may not be tedious anymore because you were converting it from a manual process to a digital process, and with digital, the error rates ought to be decreasing. So with all this in mind, with all these concepts in mind, I'd like to introduce the next speaker. He is going to be taking on the role of an operations manager at Wine Global Private Limited. He's Mr. Muhammad Uwais. At GETS, he's actually our senior product manager. But for today's presentation, he's going to put on the hat of an operations manager who has to navigate the custom declarations complexity and share with you how he's going to declare customs in a digital manner. So he's going to share with us some of the technologies and some of the technology behind it and how it makes custom declaration a lot more easier and a lot more digital. Uwais, please.
Thank you very much, Samuel. Very good afternoon to everybody. So I'm Uwais. So for this user journey, I'm the operations manager, and under the purview of me is basically doing the export and import declaration to clear customs so that I can export my goods out from Chile and bring the goods in. And so based on what JC Juncheng actually shared earlier, based on the Incoterms of Ex-Works, I would need to cover both the export as well as import declaration. So how is this usually done? So this actually used to be a very manual and tedious work. Because to actually file these declarations, there's a multitude of information that needs to be filled in. And all this information is disparate and in various places and all over the place, basically, in packing lists, commercial invoices, or shipping documents, so on and so forth. Even if I do have information within my in-house system, there is no integration to actually reuse this data as well. So what generally happens is you need to go into each and every custom system to actually key in all these data before you can actually file your declaration and to get your goods cleared. And so what was very manual through CALISTA compliance, CALISTA regulatory filing, it's digitized, and it can we can definitely benefit from increased productivity and with much lesser errors. So let me show you how this has helped. So just to anchor yourself, I'm actually showing you based on international trade, it happens on a buy, ship, pay model. So there's the preparatory work, the export, then the transport, then the preparation for import, and then the actual import itself. So now we're actually focusing on the regulatory procedures, which covers the filing of export and import declarations. So how can this solution help me? So basically, if we could actually have data from in-house system or bookings or from the export declaration itself. So all these digital data, be it it's in structured data, or it could also be in PDFs or images. These could be piped into CALISTA regulatory filing to extract the data, transform the data, and reuse the data and help you to file the data to customs. So for this, how in this particular scenario, what do I need to do? So as I mentioned before, I need to file the export declaration to the Chile single window, and then also to file the import declaration here in Singapore through, for this purposes, I'm going to use a TradeWeb, which is I'm a customer of TradeWeb. It's a GET system. And so how is the information available? So one option is where the information is in PDF or images, as I mentioned. The other is where we have a structured information as well. So both options are available for me. And so for the export declaration, I'm going to show you how I'm going to use information from PDFs that's going to be used to generate this export declaration. Let me toggle my screen. So here I'm going to log into my tool, which is the data extraction tool. So I'm just going to log in. I have my workbench here. So I'm just going to create a pouch to actually drop all my documents in. So in a couple of minutes, you'll be able to see that, this would actually process the information and extract it out. So I'm going to do a Chile export. And I'm going to select the information that I have here, which is a booking invoice as well as packing list. So all these information that is required for the export declaration resides within these documents. So I'm dropping them here and I'm just saving them. And once it's dropped in, so this is my document pouch, which is going to extract all the relevant info from here, and I'm just going to submit. So at the back end, the information will get extracted and processed and extracted into an XML format. So the XML format is a document which will be serving as an input to the Chile export declaration. So let me toggle back to my slides. So, and now I have used my PDF to extract the information, and it actually creates an XML. This XML is actually submitted, and this is how it looks like. So basically, this XML is basically a representation of all the data that is extracted out, and it has various information, as you can see on the slide here, in terms of the bill of lading, container number, invoice number, supplier, manufacturer number, the description of the item itself, the wine, and even the HS code. So in Chile, a specific HS code needs to be used because the Chile HS classification is different. And in Singapore, we need to have a separate HS classification adhering to Singapore customs rules. So such rules are incorporated and put in place within the solution. And it helps me to automatically transform the data, extract the data and transform the data and create it in such a format, and to also integrate with the relevant systems and to pass it out automatically, right? So this information was used to file the export, and this same XML file is used to extract the information, to transform it into a format, to send it to TradeWeb, TradeWeb being the front end, which connects to TradeNet. And so here, you can see on the left, which is basically the document, which is the RUSE document, you would say. It's an export declaration where it has various information of the, the consignment itself. And all the data is mapped automatically by the solution and extracted and populated in TradeWeb itself. So the HS code, the description, the value of the item, container transport details, so on and so forth. So there are other business rules and logics that can also be put in place. For example, a similar type of items, you have multiple items, it can actually be consolidated, computed, so on and so forth, and segregated as well based on controlling agencies. So with this, I'd like to toggle back. So now I have submitted the document to TradeWeb, and there will be a draft populated on TradeWeb. So this is the import declaration. So I'm going to log in to TradeWeb to see how my information has been populated. So this is TradeWeb. I'm going into drafts, and here for today, there's a draft created. So that was my shipment. And so I navigate into the data that has been already populated. So you can see the information of the declarant, the cargo information, the party information, which was there in the documents, the PDF documents, such as the importer, the freight forwarder, so on and so forth, the container information, the transport information, the invoice information, the item information. So this was the translated HS code for Singapore. Even the description, the unit of measure is all populated as per Singapore Customs guidelines, and also the value as well. So there was a conversion that happened here as well. So the original consignment was in USD, and this has been converted to Singapore dollars as well. So such things are automatically calculated. The data is extracted and it's populated. And prior to this solution, I would have to key in all this information manually before I can do a submit. Now all I have to do is reuse the data that is already there in the electronic documents. And then with the auto population of all these drafts, I can just verify and click save and submit the declaration, which actually leads to a lot of productivity gains, and it really frees up my time to do other things. And with that, I've come to the end of my segment, and I'd like to hand this over to Samuel to continue.
Thank you, Uvais. That was a very good sharing on how the complicated process of customs declaration is digitalized and made simpler for the declarant, for the importer or the exporter. So we appreciate that, and I think we have a better understanding of how the digital benefits of step 3 of the process of the international trade user journey process can be simplified, can be made more efficient through the process that you just described through CALISTA platform. So before I introduce our next speaker, and also to cover the last step of the international trade user journey process, which is the financing and payments portion, I'd like to encourage everybody to go back to your browser and answer the last question, which is question 6. Use the slider on the panel on the question to answer the question. So how likely are you to use a fintech for your payments and financing needs? We are familiar with banks, we are familiar with traditional financial institutions, but fintechs are booming. Fintechs are growing in the past few years, especially in Singapore, because we are the forefront of finance and forefront of technology as an economy, as a country. So I want to poll everybody to see how likely are you to use a fintech for your payments and financing needs. So the higher the number, the more likely you are going to engage a fintech to help you with this, as opposed to banks and traditional financial institutes. So it seems like the meter, the counter is leaning towards more than 5. Means that, well, I would think that there's still about 40% of us needs to be convinced to adopt a fintech and use a fintech for our most common payments and financing needs. So with this finding, with this insight, I would like to invite our final speaker. He's a guest, he's our fintech director, Mr. Alex. For today's presentation, he's going to take on the persona, the role of a finance manager or the finance director at the Wine Global Private Limited. So Alex, I hope your presentation will be able to help us to address this insight that only 57% of, that the score is only 5.7%. We still need to convince 4.3, of the population to use a fintech. So take it away, Alex.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I just want to share my slides right now.
Yes, please.
Actually, if I were to role play my role as a finance manager of the buyer of wine located in Singapore, I would have completed that role play in a minute, because all you need to do is go to this website, CALISTA Finance/financing, fill in your name, your company name, your contact number, your email, upload your ACRA or your nation's registration certificate, upload your invoice, upload 2 months bank balance, indicate whether you're a TradeWeb or not TradeWeb user, submit, and within 3 working days, we will then tell you exactly whether you got rejected or accepted, plus disbursements. So that's the end of the demo, but lucky we have some slides here. I just want to make sure that I explain carefully why we are so fast and fuss-free. I put this up in red because you can remember the URL. It's going to be very precious for you to go to this URL to apply for financing or to make payments. Why are we so quick? The first thing is, what's fast? Is fast 1 week, 2 weeks, or is fast in days? Today, I will show you in a demo later, I will show you a secret, the secret to my backend platform that I don't really show people, but because of Samuel, I will show it. It's so fast, you can see that I'm able to access a loan in 20 minutes and real money cash out for people. It's fast free. You don't have to do complex paperwork. All you need to do is that website, upload your invoice and 2 months bank payments. Interest is calculated per second, no early payments penalty. The solution is tailored for SMEs. Why? SMEs may not have audited financial statements, may not have a lot of BGs and LCs. So we take a lot of all this information that was submitted in my previous products and we say, okay, we know you better. All right, you're our user. We increase your credit score and lower your cost of financing. The process is actually just one step. Apply, the rest is internal. We'll give you the money into your bank account. Really today, it's about unlocking cash flow through your invoice. Do not waste the power of an invoice. Give me a legitimate invoice. If you pass my credit score, I give you cash. We've done a few cases. Just want to highlight Indonesia, Singapore, China, Philippines, all okay, no problem. We have some testimonials here by your fellow SMEs, some of them larger. These are all on our website. So without further ado, I will show you the secret to why we are so fast. Now, actually what you can see right here is a backend platform that I can open up for you, but I will use it. Today, I am the finance department. I'm going to do a demo. Let's call it demo 1. I'm going to select an invoice. I'm going to select that I need this for 60 days perhaps. I'm going to upload an invoice. I'm going to upload bank statements, 2 months. I'm going to click submit. After this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click submit right here. You're going to see immediately that this is on blockchain. What does being on blockchain means? Being on blockchain means the assessment, the security of the document is in its encryption strength. Everything is hashed. Take a look at this. This was submitted about 2 hours ago when I did my rehearsal with Samuel. This is now being registered to the blockchain. It'll be reflected in a short while, right? So as I click submit, what's going to happen is the blockchain will read these details. And after a while, it will turn active. There's going to be a awkward 1 to 2 minute silence because we are really doing this live. It's a magic show. We're going to put this on the blockchain. So as you can see, this is now registered. Take a look at this. It was about 40 seconds ago. So this is now on blockchain public. The assessment is happening as we speak. That's a miracle, right? So after a while, you'll see the legal and audits, right? Assume right now, this has passed. I'll come back to this in a short while so we don't waste time with the demo, right? All you need to do is to then go and cash it out. Money will be in your account. And all you have to do is to instruct us or to go to this platform, which will guide you later, to cash out. Look, I want to cash out to Singapore. I can select a list of countries here. I select my own bank account, and this is real money. So USD and send. In a few seconds, you will see success. So I've done a few live transactions here. So the secret that I want to share with you today is that everything here is on blockchain. Everything is hashed. This is why we are so fast. It is just one person, me and my team, operating this backend system. There is no other magic. It's all on blockchain. It's all digitalized. It's a super impressive credit score that can give SMEs the power of speed. That's why our SLA of 2 to 3 days is for real. So we come down to the last bit of the presentation. We want to tell you that today, whether you are a Chilean wine trader or you're F&B owner, all you need to do is give us your invoice, bank statements, 2 months, apply. You will see the power of our speed, and you will definitely benefit from unlocking the power of invoice in your cash flow. Samuel, thanks. Over to you.
So thank you, Alex, for sharing the benefits of actually using technology to fulfill our financing needs. It's really quite impressive to get the loan and disburse within that short space of time, as opposed to a traditional financial institute. Hopefully, this technology will help us to help SMEs, help traders to get access to invoice financing, to get access to cash flow management tools through the platform, to actually manage their cash flow better and to, tie through this difficult period of this pandemic. So thank you very much, Alex. Appreciate it. So I believe we have come to this segment of the Q&A. This is one of my favorite segments because it helps us to be a bit more interactive. It's help us to reach out to answer any queries and doubts. So Chris, would you like to explain a little bit more about the Q&A?
Okay, for the Q&A, right, I will need to trouble all the audience. We have a Q&A feature within Zoom itself. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them inside the Q&A session. It'll be good if you can actually put them inside, probably just address your name as well. Don't send it as an anonymous request, because it'll be hard for Gets to follow up with you after the event if you actually put it in as under anonymous. So for some of you, if you actually have any personal questions, you may actually want to use the chat feature just to direct to the speakers as well using the chat. Yep, so that's about all. Samuel, shall we invite all the other panelists to join you in the Q&A now?
Please, yeah, let's everybody turn on our videos.
Sure.
Maybe I can kick off this, the facilitation for this Q&A section. Maybe I can ask Alex. Alex is our last speaker, right? So maybe he's a bit more, fresh on his mind. So there's this question that is, I believe, directed at you with regards to the invoice. So one of our attendees is asking about invoice. Is it referring to the export invoice or import invoice? So I believe you have an answer. Would you be able to share?
Both.
Both. So is it the case that it means that CALISTA financing, that product that you just shared earlier on, it can be applied for all types of invoices?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Is there a certain type of restriction to the invoices?
Fake invoice.
Fake invoice. So it must be a legitimate invoice, right? So that needs to be determined by your engine, is that correct? Mm. Okay, interesting. So I hope it answers Tina's question on whether the invoice is actually referring to the export invoice and import invoice. The answer is actually both invoices. Okay, let me see what's the next question that we can ask.
Sorry, Samuel, just to be on to the earlier question, right? I think right in the minds of a lot of the traders, right, would be like what Mike, like what Alex actually rightly put up, is that there's a lot of so-called assessment being done. So I think that's where, even in some of the cases where the government is actually giving some bank loans or whatever, right? There's always this eligible criteria that's actually inside. So I think it's more to the trader side when wondering what are those things, because if it's going to be very strict or based on certain criteria, right, that they are not going to be qualified, so they will not want to waste their time. So I'm not too sure whether it's sensitive enough for Gets to share more about what are some of the assessment criteria.
Alex, would you help, please?
Sure. We do not have a list of criteria like banks and common FIs. What we do, however, is a mixture of 3 pillars of information. The first is your bank balance. If this bank balance is $1 and you have no proof of transactions in that bank, then the score will be adjusted down. A good set of bank transactions will be one with very active ins and outs, debits and credits. We can see a very strong source of funding. We can see strong source of inflow and outflow. We like that, even if the bank balance is low. So I'll give you an example. We are funded up to 20, 30, 40, 50K with a bank balance of less than 10K because we saw 100, 200K ins and outs. So it really, really depends on the quality of the banking records. That's one. Second, it's also about the type of invoice. it's not about whether it's import or export, it's about the type of goods. Today, if you are doing perishables, very quick perishables like bread, then the quality, the credit score will go lower. If you're dealing with high non-perishable, like gold, metal, and the price is not too fluctuating, then the credit score will go up. This is like common sense. It's very hard for me to put down in attributes. On the third one, it's really whether you're a user of CFX, CALISTA Freight Exchange, you're a user on TradeWeb. If you are, we know you better, we'll give you a higher score. If you're not, the score goes lower. At this moment, Samuel, I would like to take a point to mention that the GATS does not take risk on its balance sheet. We do this with our partners. We have a list of 4 to 5 partners on our website, and they on an aggregate agree to take on the scores of our credit engine. Over to you, Sam.
Yeah. So on this note, one of our attendees is actually asking about the security about our fintech product. So our fintech product is, Alex, it seems very fast and very simple to use.
Yeah.
How secure is it? People are always concerned about cybersecurity, things, information getting hacked and etc. So if this is on the blockchain, public, how concerned should a user be with regards to security?
Fortunately, being on a blockchain means it's the highest level of encryption already. But if the concern is security of, let's say, our servers, will our information be leaked out? We don't store any of your information on our hard disks and servers. Even if we do, like what Uvais mentioned, all our infrastructure has a certain level of infrastructure security. More information can be provided in writing through Samuel. We have those policies in mind. So we are aligned to what Uvais has shared as Crimson Logic gets as a company. Yes.
Understand. Cool. Okay, I have a question that is probably best answered by Uvais and Stefan from the compliance pillar. The question is a bit long, but I would like to paraphrase it for you. Uvais, so one of our attendees is asking about the data translation accuracy rate. So is there any incidence of data extraction error from the PDF when it's translated into digital format? Are there incidents of data extraction error? And if there's such errors, how it will cascade down to error in downstream impact, right? For the shipping documents, for the customs declaration. So what are the incidences of these errors? And what are the mechanisms that your platform has in place to remedy these incidents?
All right, thanks, Samuel. So in terms of the accuracy, it's definitely more than 80%. But of course, how do we achieve this 80% accuracy? Mainly is we have a training workbench where you can actually train the system to load in multiple formats of the same document, right? And then, multiple documents of the same format to actually map the source and target destination data elements. And of course, this can be reviewed, and over time it can be improved. And also if there are any errors, then it can be corrected to say which of the data elements are not being correctly mapped. And then when you do these such corrections, this would then be effected and applied by the system. And for future submissions, it will also take effect. So another fallback mechanism, I think one of the part of the question was that how do you remedy if there is any error, right? So while we actually extract the data and then populate such trade declarations, right? The onus is also on the declarant to also view the data. So he has an option to actually review the data. So rather than spending time to keying in all the data, everything is populated. So he has the option to review all these data and make any amendments even at that stage before the submission is done. So I think these are some of the measures that are in place or in the process that can actually mitigate such issues.
Thank you. I believe you have answered the question that our attendee has posed on with regards to data translation errors. The next question I would like to ask probably Mike. Mike, you're not on video, but we can hear you clearly. Can you unmute yourself while I ask this question?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. So one of the attendees is asking about deglobalization, right? Globalization is happening everywhere because of the pandemic. It used to be, though we are kind of decentralizing a lot of restrictions in place, etc. Right? So is e-trade facilities like CALISTA, is it still relevant? Is it still useful? For example, I think the user quoted an example, with trade wars, etc., US may not recognize the documents from China in the near future. So how would these negative situations or negative outlook affect the common acknowledgement of e-trade documents across regions? Mike, please.
Thanks, Samuel. Yeah, I think we are going through a very uncertain era, where not only we have trade tension between two largest economy in the world, at the same time we also have a pandemic situation right now, and things get escalated as well. I mean, where everybody's out to look after themselves, securing whatever necessary supplies and all these things. I think I think through this whole trade tension and this whole pandemic, we actually observe the vulnerability of our current supply chain ecosystem, especially those people who operate in a non-digital manner, where they used to be very dependent on their trusted service provider, or or whatever sources they have that's non-digital, to provide them with the know-how. And suddenly when such tension occur or pandemic occur, some of the supply chain have to stop because it just simply couldn't function anymore, and they're left with no option. But whilst we also have seen with digital platform like CALISTA, or what you term as e-trade, it actually provide you a lot more advanced information, even at a very fast speed. And knowing that, we can also, I mean, some of the trend that we have witnessed, especially because for GETS, we do not just operate out from Singapore. Currently, we have offices, we cover region in ASEAN, China. We are as far away as in US, Canada, in North America, where we have been there for the last 20 years. So maybe I'll use some example from North America to share with you. Recently with the tension, especially with the pandemic, two significant things occur. Firstly is you can see that the tariff rate suddenly increased overnight when President Trump decided to make a new announcement and impose new tariff rate. And many of the traders are not able to respond fast enough, and they are always being caught. So I think our earlier colleague JC has shared with a platform like CALISTA Intelligence Advisory is able to give you near to real-time information, so that while you cannot predict, because nobody can predict what Trump is going to wake up with, but at least what you want to know is the real-time information. At the same time, I can quote you another example. During this whole pandemic, we also observe another thing is that because of like masks and all this is become an important supplies. We have seen many countries actually loosen the importation criteria for masks, simplifying it, at the early days when it was under great shortage, so that they can facilitate the movement. And straight away, we were able to witness this from our own platform itself, where we saw that the importation requirement for such medical supplies have changed overnight, and that really helps us to able to determine what is the correct information to use. So coming back to US, so interestingly, I mean, we've been involved in the whole import-export procedure, because we provide our own digital service in North America, whether it's in Canada or USA. I mean, GETS are accredited by both the US and the Canadian Customs Authority. We start to see a shift in terms of how goods are flowing into US. In the past, most of the goods are traditionally coming in by air. It's either going to LA, or it's going to New York, or even Chicago. And by sea, you can see that it will either call on the LA on the West Coast, or on the East Coast, there would be the other ports. But lately, we are observing that many of the goods are not even coming in direct into US anymore. And they are actually coming in from places like Canada or even Mexico. And especially what we have witnessed is the e-commerce goods itself. So with that, we realize that, can you imagine that if you do not have enough information, you do not have digital tool like what CALISTA can offer, this would never be an option for you to even know. You will be basically stuck and say that, hey, I can't really move goods in. But now with CALISTA 2, we are able to then support you and to tell you that there's other alternative. You know, you can actually ship in via Canada and you can truck it over to US. And especially for e-commerce goods, the new free trade agreement between the three countries, you can still leverage on them. You know, this is the power of what the digital platform can do. So to me, the whole deglobalization is a concern, it's a fact, and especially with the pandemic, is going to be even more real because every country is going to protect their border. But I think what you want to do is, we can't change that decision, but what you want to do is to be more well-informed and explore what better alternative do you have. So I believe with GETS and with the platform like CALISTA, this is something that you can do. Thanks. I'll hand over back to you, Samuel.
Thank you, Mike, for your explanation. Now I'd like to direct a question with regards to the freight aspects of the user journey. So perhaps Yong Yao, why would you be able to answer this question? So there's this question by one of our attendees. He's asking, as a trader, are we able to use freight exchange to get a quote from third-party country to third-party country, meaning from Germany to Australia, for example, instead of Germany to Singapore? Sometimes these traders, they need to offer CIF from third country to third country instead of through Singapore. Will Freight Exchange be able to make bookings through the microsite or even from the Freight Exchange marketplace to get quotes for freight from third countries to third countries, third-party countries to third-party countries? Thank you. Yong Yao, you need unmute. Thanks.
As long as the freight forwarders subscribe to the Freight Exchange and they decide to publish the rates, the Freight Exchange is open to anyone in the world, as long as the freight forwarders decided to publish the rate. Then once the freight forwarder is on board on CALISTA Freight Exchange, they can provide the microsite link to any of their customers, and then they can just make the booking accordingly with the freight forwarder. So the important step is we need to have the freight forwarders to be on board on CALISTA Freight Exchange first before any trade can happen between the third party and third party. And of course, this will also require the freight forwarders to be open to publish rates, because this is one of the things that we see nowadays, that freight forwarders, they are a bit scared or in some ways skeptical in publishing their rates onto the Freight Exchange. So that is where the Freight Exchange is trying to come into. We are trying to open up this entire marketplace for freight forwarders to have a sort of a healthy competition, so that it will also benefit traders and consumers when they purchase freight space. Yeah.
Cool. So from what I hear, it seems like this ecosystem under the Freight Exchange is growing. I believe there's not only Singapore freight forwarders are listed, there's a lot of freight forwarders from all over the world that is being signed up as a user, as a provider of freight rates on Freight Exchange, right? So yeah. I believe in time to come, this ecosystem will grow rapidly. I think last I remember, there's more than 100, almost 120 freight forwarders from all over the world. Some of them from China, some from Europe, ASEAN countries as well, already starting to publish their rates and freight routes on freight. So before long, if you go in to search, it'll be as easy to search from point A to point B. You can key in 2 ports and then you'll be able to get the freight rates in a dynamic manner. So I hope that answers the question on freight rates for third-party countries. I have a question that there's time to take maybe 2 more questions before we conclude today's presentation. Maybe the next question I can ask Jin Chen with regards to the intelligent advisory. I think this question is quite relevant for your area. One of our attendees is asking, can I use TAS Quick Search, Trade Advisory Quick Search, before being a member or sign up with CALISTA? So it sounds like someone is very eager to try, and can we have invite this person to try? So, Cheng, over to you.
In fact, actually, I was typing the answer while I was explaining about the free process. So, short answer is yes, you will need to sign up, but we are offering a free trial sign up to the audience today that attend here. So we will send you information on how to sign up this trial account so that you can actually have a try on how it is.
Okay, so another question also pertaining to your area. I think based on the rate of questions being asked, this will probably be the last one, if not the second last question that we'll address. Jin-Cheng, stay on. I'd like to ask you, how accurate is your HS code recommendation from your intelligent advisory? What is the technology behind? And I want to ask, add on to this question, this HS code recommendation, does it cover, how extensive is the coverage?
Okay, last question is the easiest to answer. Okay, more than 180 countries. Wow. I think I shared earlier on. Okay. So, okay, going back to the accuracy is from 80 to 90%. But of course, it also really depends on the product description, as you can see from the demonstration. How it works is really using some of the technologies that you hear about, natural language processing, data science, which involve in the modeling. So how we actually goes about is really, gets been in the trade industry for many years. We have a lot of trade history, trade transaction, all this knowledge come in. We actually build a data science model based on all this data around the world to actually able to predict if you pass in a product description, let's say even Samsung S10, it will know that actually it is a mobile phone, and then hence it can classify into the relevant HS codes. Samsung S10, you will never be able to find in the HS description, and you will never, even a new mobile phone in the future. So that is actually pretty much how we derive. But of course, on the going back to the accuracy question, right? If, for example, if I put in a very generic description, for example, t-shirt. T-shirt can be classified into many different HS codes. Really depends on the material. For example, nylon versus cotton versus silk. It can go into the different HS codes. Hence, the result may yield low, maybe in your definition, lower accuracy. But how we rank the result, let's say if you just pass in the description t-shirt, it will go by in majority, what is the HS code that they declare. So this is how this technology works. Cool,
thank you so much. I think we will take one last question and then we will end off the Q&A. Since Alex is the last person to present, I think let's come full circle. Let's have the last question answered by you. I think this is a very interesting question. Everybody's probably thinking about it, but nobody dare to ask, is how much is the interest rates for the trade financing? So I believe you answered it in the private chat.
No worries. I can give it a shot.
Share it with everybody.
On average, I'm doing about 1% per month. This does not deviate from any non-bank lenders. In fact, we are slightly lower. With banking guarantee, with BG, with LC pledged to it, or with assets pledged, it comes down to about 5 to 7% per annum. So if you divide by 12, that's about 0.6, 0.7, right? So if you are high risk, you have really zero cash flow, you have really no assets, the rates will shoot up to about 18% per annum. So that's about the going of the market. Our moat is really no fuss, FUSS, very fast. That's who we stand for. Our rates compared to, let's say, normal banks will tend to be higher due to cost of funds. Banks have very low cost of funds because they take your money and you know how much they give you, right? So that's their low cost of funds. However, ours is about speed. So we really want to solve the problem in trade financing. Anytime you give us an invoice within 3 days, you know whether it's a yes and a no. And if it's a yes, money in your bank account. And that's a very happy thing.
Cool. Thank you so much, Alex. That is really good information to know about the interest rates. I think we'll get better understanding. Not only is the speed CALISTA financing is talking about fast, is also talking about, affordable, for short-term financing, 1 month, 2 months for your invoices. I think that's a good interest rate that we are talking about. Okay, so I think we have come to the end of the Q&A, and thank you everybody for your attention on a Friday afternoon. We don't want to drag on the session beyond what is we think is comfortable for everyone. I hope you all enjoyed the quizzes. I hope you all enjoyed the presentation. Thank you, everybody.
Samuel, can I just jump in with one last question, actually?
Oh, sure. One last question for this afternoon, sure.
Sure. Okay, because on our side, right, Singapore, MTI has been always signing free trade agreements with all the countries, right? So I'm just wondering, for all these free trade agreements, are they already somehow permeated within the CALISTA system, such that all the traders, when they actually go in with certain items, right, they will know that their item is actually applicable under the free trade agreements?
I think we are quite up to date. Jin Cheng will probably be the best person to advocate that we are really, really up to date. So Jin Cheng.
Okay, the answer is yes. We get it updated at the soonest. It's a mix of both, whether it is both automated, where actually we regularly fetch this data, and of course at the same time we have human eyeballs to actually, in the scenario that there are certain things that needs to be manually added, we actually also can handle it. So short answer back to your question is yes, we update it is in a way real time. I would put it as at most 1 day of difference, 1 or 2 days of difference.
I understand. I mean, Getz and Crimson Logic, we have been in the industry, talking about e-trade, global trade. So topics like FTA is definitely on our radar, on our eyeball. We better be on the latest updates, right, in order to advise our customers properly. So rest assured that all this information is, promptly updated, and we are able to translate that information to our customers in a very, very, updated manner. Okay, so Chris, I think we are good. I would like to share a screen for the survey. So I know a lot of people are interested to get a hold of the slides. So in order for us to facilitate the sharing of the slides with everyone who is interested in getting the information in a digital PDF format, please help us to complete this survey. You can either scan a QR code so that we have the information to email you the slides. You can either use the bit.ly or the QR code. So this is one way that you can get a copy of today's presentation. Yeah. So I'm going to leave this on for about 10 to 15 more seconds so that you can have access to this survey while I end off today's presentation by thanking everybody who has attended this webinar as an attendee. But most importantly, thank the Singapore Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry who has invited us to be a guest presenter. And we are the last item for the SMEICC week. 3 days worth of webinars. So we are very honored. We are very thankful for this opportunity. We hope to do more such sessions with SCCCI. We always have very close relationship with you guys. So please feel free to invite us again. And I will shamelessly say yes every time you invite us. So thank you everybody for your afternoon. Hope everybody will stay safe and have a good weekend ahead. So over to you, Chris, for further administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you for the for Getz partnership in being involved in this year's SMEICC Live 2020. So I would like to thank the team as well, Mike, Jin Cheng, Yong Yao, Uwe, and Alex for your insightful analysis and valuable sharing. I believe everyone benefited from the team's insightful sharing and hope everyone has been inspired and gained new knowledge for the next future, especially as a digital trader. So without further ado, before we end the session, right, a quick announcement on the SCCCI membership. So do note that we have a special offer up to 21st of September. So if you require more information, please refer to the details on this screen. At this juncture, I would like to actually release a poll as well to in case you actually wants to be contacted with Getz immediately. So do feel free to actually indicate your response over here if you have actually missed out on scanning a QR code earlier. So if you actually indicate over here, we will actually so-called retrieve the information and share with Getz so that they can get in touch with you immediately after this event. Yep. So I'll probably just leave this poll for another 10, 20 seconds. So for you to leave your, indicate your interest. Yep.
Sorry, I wanted to jump on. I believe
Sure.
some Q&A questions we didn't answer because of time, because of, maybe some of the questions require a bit of advisory from our other colleagues who are not present today to answer the questions. So rest assured, we'll address each and every Q&A. The SCCI will share the questions with us so that we can reach out directly to you if you have answered a question and that we have not replied during the live Q&A, we will address it to you offline through an email. So don't worry, your questions will be answered. We are not avoiding them, not to worry. It's just that because of logistics, because of not the right people are here to answer the question, we need to take it offline so that we can have a better answer prepared for you. And I believe we will find ways for the Chinese Chamber to share the answers with everybody. You can even publish it on the Facebook post for this particular video, right? You're going to post it on Facebook. So you can also do the Q&A. I think that's a good idea. One of the attendees was asking. Okay, thank you so much. I'm really going to sign off for now. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, thanks, Samuel. So in fact, if you guys have any further questions pertaining to trade-related matters, feel free to actually leave it within the Q&A session. We'll keep it open up to 4:20. So for all those questions that are actually placed under the Q&A, we will forward them over to GET for them to reply the individuals who have actually posted the question. So with that, we come to the end of the session. So also, please let us know your comments on the SMEICC Live through the feedback survey here. You can scan the QR code on screen or follow the redirect link after you have closed this session. Your feedback is valuable to us so that we can improve your experience for next year. Especially the case is because for those who have been attending SMEICC for the past years, right, you know that this year's format is a bit different. So previous years has always been a conference and exhibition component, whereas for this year, we are actually moving the whole event fully online. So I think for those who have actually been attending the session, please do give us some valuable feedback so that we know as we craft SMEICC 2021, what are some of the things that we can actually gather feedback from all of you in order to make the next event next year better. So with that, once again, I'd like to thank everyone for the support and participation over the 4 days. We look forward to seeing you at SMEICC 2021. Have a great evening ahead. Goodbye.